Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kirsten. I'm an ecologist and science communicator, and I am part of the Stone Age Man team, stepping in for Rob today. Also, just as a little bit of a kind of shameless plug, you can also join me over on the Anthropocene podcast when season 3 is coming soon. But let's get into why we are here today. So I am here with Camille, and who is a PhD and hippo expert, which is pretty exciting. And I'm just going to let you jump right into it. Camille, can you introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Kirsten, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to join you today. I am a honorary research fellow at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm also an independent wildlife specialist, currently living in South Africa, originally from the United States. And my parents are actually from France, as a little fun fact. But so yeah, I'm currently working as part of UKZN and as a member of the IUCN Hippo Specialist Group. And I do various kind of science-based and management-based research to inform the management and conservation of hippos in South Africa.
Awesome. That's so cool. I do have to say, we emailed a little bit back and forth before, and when you said Hippo Specialist Group, I was like, didn't even know that existed, and that was super exciting for me. So, very cool. We'll get into that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I had never heard of it before either. And
right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So where did you study then? You have a PhD in Hippo, I guess.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in California at the University of California, Santa Barbara. And then I came out to South Africa on a 6-week kind of excursion. And I got really motivated, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I'm supposed to do. Because I think after uni, I was a little bit lost on what I wanted to do with my environmental studies degree. And when I came out here, I was like, oh my goodness, I really want to come back. So I ended up signing up for a PhD program here with Professor Colleen Downs. And I was based here working on my research for about 6 years, doing a PhD, specifically, on hippo behavioral ecology. And that took place in a couple different reserves in South Africa. But yeah, did my PhD at UKZN and loved it.
Amazing. That's great. So we're going to talk a little bit all things hippos today, but we got to get to the burning questions first. We want to know, how dangerous are hippos really, and how would one survive or / avoid a hippo attack in general?
Yeah, it's everyone's burning question, I think, when they speak to me and other people that work closely with hippos. I think definitely when you speak to like experts on the ground, even just folks that work in conservation, rangers, people that are on the ground 24/7 every day in reserves, there's definitely a stigma that comes with hippos, as they do have this like very territorial behavior. But most of the kind of interactions that you have with hippos, let's say like 99% of them, are completely good. There's nothing bad happens. But there's those kind of 1%ers that something bad can happen. And a lot of those situations, when you look at it, it's like someone was maybe in a canoe, in a boat, fishing in a really rural situation where they needed to fish around hippos, and their boat got attacked. And it's really just a combination of scenarios that come into play and really ultimately end up in a negative scenario.
Right. That makes sense. I feel like, I think a lot of our audience, in North America, it's the same kind of thing with our sort of megafauna. Like there are things that happen and there are interactions, but of course, like usually giving them their space and just working around them helps just fine.
Yeah. And I imagine something like a moose or a grizzly bear would be pretty similar, or mountain lions. I just got sent a video from my mom last week, and there was a mountain lion in our street at home. So it's just about
Oh,
kind of,
wow. Yep.
yeah, finding space and giving each other space. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever then had kind of like been charged by a hippo or been in a situation where you were a little bit maybe not afraid but uncomfortable?
Definitely. I think, yeah, when I look back at it as well, it's kind of, gosh, I could have done that a little bit safer. But yeah, sometimes, like I said, 99% of the time, you are getting, nothing's happening, and you kind of get lulled into security and feeling
Hmm.
that you're safe, and then something happens, and you're like, oh my goodness, that could have gone differently, and I could have died.
Right.
One specific example, off the top of my head, which might not sound that exciting, but we were kind of, well, we were trying to actually capture hippos. So in that way, it was actually a little bit exciting. But so we landed
Right.
a helicopter on a sandbank, and I was actually getting out the helicopter to collect these hippo tusks because I was doing research on uh, uh, hippo tusks. And as I got out and I crossed the river, there was a hippo that came from the other side that was actually grazing kind of mid-morning, which typically they don't. Typically they're in the water. And this thing just came running
Right.
down the sandbank straight at me. And I was about half meter of water, so I had to sprint back towards the helicopter. And if I had gone to the other side of the bank, maybe things would have gone differently.
Right. So I guess the biggest thing in, surviving and avoiding a hippo attack is lots of space.
Um, Definitely lots of space and informed guides that can kind of that know the animal as well as you can. Every animal is unpredictable,
Right.
but someone that can help you be as safe as possible. And as I said, like most of those situations are going to go great.
Right. The cool thing, though, I think there's kind of this sort of, I mean, like you said, it's kind of a bad stigma about hippos being dangerous, but I think it's also just a new knowledge for people that, most of us that have never been anywhere near a hippo or interacted with them, you see them as these big, like, lumbering kind of things. And now there's more videos and footage of them running at full speed, like you said, which is something that's totally weird because they go way faster than you'd think they would. And,
Yeah.
videos about them crushing watermelons just in
Hmm.
their, with one little bite and fighting with lions. So I think it's kind of that cool, the pros and cons of the information age, right? Like we're learning that they can be dangerous, and we just need to like balance that out with 99% of the time nothing
Right.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting the one percenters at high density, whereas like the 99%
Right.
not interesting enough to make it on social media. So yeah, but
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Do you
yeah,
know how fast can a hippo run actually?
yeah, 30
About.
kilometers, between 30 and 40 kilometers per hour. Um,
Right.
and they're agile on land. It's incredible. I mean, they spend half their lives on land, half their lives on water, but they're incredibly
Right.
agile. I've been in kind of incredible river gorges that are almost like vertical, and you just see them
Right.
running these like Z paths up the side of a mountain to get to the top where there's grazing. So
Right.
they can scale. They can even go vertical. They're really amazing animals for their size. Yeah.
Right. That's super cool. I think that's a good segue then to, come out of the danger a little bit and just kind of talk a little bit about, your expertise on hippo ecology. So what is like the day in the life of a hippo then for people that don't know?
Yeah. So a hippo spends half its day. So hippos are predominantly active at night, which so
Hmm.
during the day they're resting in groups, usually called pods, and those pods can be from one individual to 100 individuals in size, depending on the kind of population and the river size and where they are in the country, really. And then at night they come out to graze. They only eat, almost exclusively eat grass, but they also graze on or eat other like little herbs, and there's some more recent research that's come out and said that they do supplement their grazing with browsing. So they're eating more kind of plants, woody plants, not exclusively grass.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, so that's their kind of day in the life. Spend a lot of time in the water during the day and come out to feed at night.
Makes sense, I guess, with the the heat, and it's probably a lot easier to just conserve your energy, meandering
Yeah,
around when it's dark.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's really cool. As for like the reproductive cycle of them, like when do hippos mature? How long is the gestation period? Just a little bit of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So typically the females can become mature around 3 years of age. Um,
Okay.
and it's really interesting. They can kind of change the age of maturity based on how much kind of environmental stress they're feeling. If they're feeling pretty
Uh-huh.
environmentally stressed, they're gonna reach maturity a little bit later, so that there's fewer individuals almost that are competing for the same resources. And then if there's abundance of resources, abundance of space, waiting area, abundance of grass available, then they can mature quite quickly. Typically pods,
Hmm.
I think one of the more common facts that people know about hippos is that there's usually this typical dominant bull that kind of has dominion over each pod. And
Mm-hmm.
so typically there's a dominant bull that has dominion over a pod, and then the pod consists of subdominant bulls as well as a number of different females and then their offspring.
Okay.
Uh, um, and they typically reproduce in the kind of drier periods. That's when you have more reproduction happening, and then the offspring are born in the wetter months. So it's actually it's a short gestation period. It's actually closer to uh, 8 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right, that's super cool. I
Yeah,
had no idea about well, for one, that it's a pod of hippos. I'm loving that. That's
yeah,
super cool. Something that I had no idea about. And yeah, that's really interesting. I guess especially, in places where there can be so much environmental stress, that's like a really important evolutionary strategy to be able to just wait one more year before you're trying to reproduce, very likely unsuccessfully.
yeah. And actually, interestingly, the reason they have a shorter gestation period compared to other large herbivores in Africa is that uh, they are when the calf is born, it's born into like an aquatic environment, so that almost replicates the womb, and so it's able
Oh.
to have babies earlier because it's almost in this womb-like environment when it's born.
Right, okay, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I have always noted that hippos look a little bit kind of stumpier and more potatoy than
Mm.
most of the large mammals when they come out, but that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Awesome. So then a little bit about the conservation work for hippos. What are some of the main threats that these big, giant megafauna face?
yeah. So generally, populations have been stable for the last kind of 5 to 10 years. Uh, Prior to
Okay,
that, they
great.
were declining. They are globally threatened. In South Africa, they are stable. Um, the
Okay.
largest populations in South Africa specifically occur almost exclusively in fence protected areas. As a kind of side anecdote, hippos are kind of the only large herbivore that exists out of fence protected areas in South Africa because you can't fence a river. And so they are able to go in and out of
Right.
protected areas. And so
Hmm.
in other parts of Africa where there's kind of less fence protected area, they are in places like Zambia, there's massive populations of like 30,000 hippos. In South Africa, we're closer to like the 10,000, 15,000 figure. Um,
Okay.
and sorry, going back to your question, which was what the conservation status of hippos, is that? what your question was.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah, that'd be great to know. Yeah. No, no, it's okay. I was just asking about the threats, but the status is good to know.
Yeah, the threats to hippos are definitely habitat loss. I spoke about
Mm-hmm.
the importance of aquatic habitat for them, and so there's a lot of illegal water removal from rivers, and there's pesticides and things from pesticide runoff into rivers. Um, and then there's just general habitat landscape change. And
Mm-hmm.
landscape change is going to remove the kind of grass habitat that they need to feed on, whereas water abstraction and water quality, the loss of good water quality reduces their wading habitat. And those are the major threats.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a common story, land use change, lack of water, things that are resources that we're extracting from the environment. So what is
Yeah.
some of the work then that's being done to, I mean, this isn't a critically endangered animal, but to help maintain those levels of hippos?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, we're not really doing any like breeding or anything, but it's really just to
Mm-hmm.
conserve the spaces, I imagine. But yeah, some of the work that we're doing to try and help combat the loss of populations of hippos across Africa is to um, save their habitat as much as possible, educate
Mm-hmm.
folks across the world about the importance that they play in their ecosystem. They're actually regarded as ecosystem engineers, and so it's really
Right.
about conserving their habitat and doing the best that we can to prevent poaching and other sort of things that are less impactful but are still impactful on reducing the population.
Right. Very cool. Thank you. Does anybody eat hippos? I would assume that that would be something for maybe some more remote communities that could be a pretty good source of food.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. So it's actually it's actually so in South Africa in KwaZulu Natal where I am based, the Zulu king, who KwaZulu Natal is named after the Zulu people, and the Zulu king
Okay.
every year is given two hippos. Um, because it's his favorite meat. It's a treasured meat in the Zulu
Hmm.
culture. So it's because it's basically just a 3,000 or 2,500 kilogram grass fed beef animal. It's
Right.
so it's highly sought after in the subsistence meat trade. That is one of the threats, definitely. Um,
Hmm.
and I've actually had hippo meat before that was part of um, a controlled removal of hippos, and the meat became
Hmm.
available and was sold to the community around the protected area to finance the protected area. Um, and yeah, it's delicious, and if you have the opportunity and it's sustainably
Hmm.
taken off, then maybe it's an opportunity to try it.
Yeah, because I mean, you think about people have, lived in Africa for a very long time. So it is this like important cultural meat. And I don't see that, of course, there's sustainable practices that you can remove it. And yeah, very interesting. It's very cool. Do you have like a favorite hippo encounter or like something that you've seen that was like really incredible that you could share as an anecdote for us?
Sure. I think what I'll go with is there's my favorite hippo observation or story I have about a hippo is that there's this amazing town in South Africa called Saint Lucia, and there's hippos that actually walk through the town at night. And so when I first came here
Okay.
and I started on this hippo project, I drove the 2.5 hours up to Saint Lucia and I stayed there. And then my friend and I went out in our little like Toyota Yaris, which is like half the size of a hippo, and we were
Right.
driving around town at like 10:30 at night, and we came across a hippo eating someone's geraniums in the front yard, and we kind of just parked kind of across from it. And then as it started, and we turned the car off, and we just kind of wanted to observe it. And then as it was chomping away, it slowly moved across the front yard and was like right next to us in the car. And I was looking eye to eye at this hippo in this Yaris. I was like, literally the eye was right here. I almost was too scared to look at it, kind of thing. But yeah,
Right.
that was my first kind of really memorable interaction with them. And yeah, it was really exciting.
That's very cool. Yeah, it sounds like a really super interesting animal to be able to study, and I think there's a lot about them that's still being found out, like you said. I mean, especially with animals that are primarily nocturnal, there's a lot more work to be done still to understand them. So
Yeah,
that's great.
it's incredible how technology is going to come into play now with these like passive recorders. I'm sure you're familiar with like camera traps and acoustic monitoring devices, and how those can kind of start to unravel some of the nocturnal behavior. Yeah, and hippos are, when I started my PhD, there was only about 60 publications on their behavioral ecology. When you look at something like a rhino and an elephant, they have like hundreds, if not almost thousands of papers written about them. So there's still a lot to unravel. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be working in Africa as someone working on the hippos. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much, Camille. Just to kind of wrap up, what are you up to now? Where can people find you if they want to check out your work or follow along with you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm currently in South Africa, and I've actually recently started a tourism company where we're taking folks from the U.S. Into South Africa. And the reason that we're doing that is to finance research that's happening here in KwaZulu-Natal. There's been quite a kind of lots of socioeconomic issues post-COVID here in South Africa. So it's getting people involved in conservation. They get to come on the ground with us and kind of do the behind the scenes, behind the science kind of experience. And it's
Cool.
going to help finance the research, which is really exciting. And we're hoping that we can do make an impact, a positive impact.
Right.
And
Excellent. So do you guys
yeah,
have a website right now or social media?
yeah, I apologize for that. It's
No, that's okay.
imbubusafaris.com, and maybe we can just put it
Okay.
across the bottom. But it's
Yeah.
Imbubu is hippo in Zulu, so it's something that I have close to my
Oh,
heart,
cool.
and yeah, look forward to potentially having people come and join us.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like a really great way to, like you said, to finance things, but to get people more behind the science and get a better idea of what's happening on the ground. Because, I mean, most of us only interact with these animals through like a little documentary or
Yeah,
something, but that like behind the scenes experience is incredible. And just to keep that research going, because it's so important.
exactly. That's the goal at the end of the day, is to keep the research going. And a lot of people come for like a big five experience in South Africa. We hope to just kind of alter that. You still get the big five experience, but you also get this other experience that a lot of people don't get, and that's to come on the ground and kind of be a scientist for a day.
Yeah, that's really great. Awesome. So yeah, we'll throw some links down in the description as well, or people can go and check you out. And yeah, good luck with that. And I hope that your first season goes really, really well.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. It was such a pleasure talking with
Thanks.
you today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.